Yes, let's start environmental issues. Pollution, we use it to say, maybe a small area, but more potential area for neat examination point of view. Okay, so let's start the topic environmental issues. So, the pollution, any undesirable change in the physical, chemical, or biological characteristics of air, land, water, or soil, we say pollution. Then the particular substances are going to cause the pollution can be considered as pollutants. Agents that cause pollution, we say pollutant. Human population explosion increases the demand for food, water, that for home, for electricity, for automobile, so that all these kind of activities of the human being is leading towards the pollution. The government of India has passed the Environmental Protection Act 1986 to control the environmental pollution and protect, improve the quality of our environment. This act is after that Bhopal gas incident, that methyl isocyanate released in the Bhopal gas in 1984 December 2nd. But there is no special act in India to punish that kind of people here. So that's why a new act is created over in 1986, that Environmental Protection Act, which to control the environmental pollution and protect, improve the quality of our environment. So the pollution is of various types based on that particular place. We say it as air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution. Likewise, that we'll discuss air pollution first of all. That air pollution and its control. What are the causes of air pollution? Here, though it may be a general idea, but while reading the text, the particular screen in front of you is the text information only, NCRT information only. While reading this particular area, you need to make some points-wise notes that you don't get more than one page, A4 page. On both sides, you will get all that particular points here. So while writing particular points, you need to commercialize, because that means here in examination point of view, is there any possibility for this question or not? That you need to. That means that kind of issues only you should go for. Not like that a general issue, which is a well-known issue like any undesirable substance which create pollution or is called pollutant, this kind of thing. Leave all the things. Write the technical information which you need to revise, which you want to revise again and again. So that is very important in that particular case. Okay, let's come to the causes of air pollution. The particulate and gaseous air pollutants from smokestacks of the thermal power plants, smelters. These are all there to be the causes of air pollution. That pollutant from the automobiles. According to the Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB. So this is the technical information. Should remember. Should write in the form of points. Particulate size of less than 2.5 millimicron in diameter, that causes the greatest harm to the human health. Okay, so that kind of technical information you people need to remember. The harmful effects of the air pollution. The particulates cause respiratory problems, irritation, inflammation, and damage to the lungs, and premature death even can be expected over. The reduction in growth and yield of crops and premature death of plants in case of plants. Is that we need to remember. Then the control of air pollution. Here we have some technical stuff which can be asked in examination. Separate or filter out the particulate matter before releasing the harmless gases into the atmosphere. The use of lead-free petrol nowadays no matter here. That lead-free petrol all over the India, we have the lead-free petrol. Earlier that is actually a demand. Now it was fulfilled. Use of catalytic converters. This is very important to remember. I'll show you that phasing out of old vehicles, that we have a rule at present, 15 years vehicles to be banned over. That use of low sulfur petrol and diesel, that need to go for some more details here. Application of pollution level norms for vehicles and use of the compressed natural gases, that that amendment is now happening. that is to avoid. Now you see this catalytic converter, that original location of this catalytic converter in the car. Okay, if you see the photograph for at least 10 seconds, that when it comes here, you can understand. It may ask like the catalytic converter is again a simple way questions will come. Air pollution or water pollution, likewise even. So that's just looking to that particular related to the car. That means air pollution. In that way, it is. The technical information about the catalytic converter, the device to reduce the emission of poisonous gases, which is made up of platinum, palladium, and rhodium. These are the costly materials actually. These are. What it will do, this converts unburned hydrocarbons into carbon dioxide and water. That means when unburned hydrocarbon passing through this is the engine actually. That unburned hydrocarbons of the engine will be converted into carbon dioxide and water. And carbon monoxide into carbon dioxide, nitric oxides into nitrogen. Simply we say toxic wastes into that non-harmful, non-toxic wastes, three-way catalyst, we can see here that HCCO, NO, nitrogen oxides entry, their exit will be nitrogen, water, and carbon dioxide. That is the catalytic converter. I'm spending time here because the very regular question, catalytic converter. The motor vehicles having catalytic converter should use unleaded petrol because lead inactivates this catalyst. So advantages of CNG, the compressed natural gas. It is better and cheaper than the petrol and diesel. It burns almost completely. It cannot be siphoned off by thieves and adulterated. The main problem of CNG is difficulty of laying down pipelines to deliver CNG through distribution points to the distribution pumps. But nowadays that problem even gets solved over. And this is very regular question here. Very regular question. Electrostatic precipitator. Electrostatic precipitator is the device to remove the particulate matter. Okay, so catalytic converter for what? When I say catalytic converter, immediately that car should come in mind. Okay, catalytic converter is for the air pollution to remove that unburned hydrocarbons to convert them into carbon dioxide and water. In that way, that because when we are writing a grand test, catalytic converter, electrostatic precipitator, that when it comes in mind, that there may be something that they are in the environmental pollution chapter, their environmental issues chapter. Up to here only you'll remember. So that's why just look at towards the photographs. Catalytic converter, that is the car should come in mind. It is a device to remove the particulate matter. It can remove over 99% particulate matter present in the exhaust from a thermal power plant. The electrons released from electrode wires at several thousand volts attached to the dust particles giving a negative charge that you can see here in the diagram. Then the collecting plates attract the charged dust particles. That particles are negatively charged and the collecting plates attract the charged dust particle. The velocity of air between the plates must be low enough to allow the dust to fall. That was the rule they are passing. And a scrubber, you see the scrubber. The scrubber removes the gases like sulfur dioxide. In this scrubber removes the gases like sulfur dioxide. This is what I am saying. This kind of technical information issued. This is the third one, isn't it? Catalytic converter, electrostatic precipitator, and now the scrubber. Scrubber remove the gases like sulfur dioxide. In this, the exhaust is passed through a spray of water line. There you can see this. And very small particles are not removed by this particular precipitator actually. Noise pollution. Noise pollution. Noise is undesired high level of sound. In India, the Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1981 was amended in 1987 to include noise as an air pollutant. Noise is also pollution they consider after 1987. The sources of the noise pollution, the well-known music instrument, loudspeakers, crackers, industries, going to create the noise, but need to know, remember that level. It causes the psychological and physiological disorders. Sound level above 150 decibel generated by takeoff of a jet plane, a rocket, which is equal to, we are talking, may damage our eardrums. Recent times, the investigations reveals that lower than this even, continuous hearing may get damage. That means talking about 100 decibel, 110 decibel, when you are hearing continuously, they also even going to get damage. The chronic exposure to relatively lower noise may damage hearing abilities of humans, we see. Sleeplessness, increased heartbeat, and breathing stress are the symptoms for the resultants of the noise pollution, we can say. So how do we control use of sound absorbent materials in the industry is not to get sound out from the industry. The delimitation of horn-free zones around the hospitals and schools, one should have their own ethical values, not to do like so that not blowing horn in front of the public places like the places like hospitals and schools. Permissible sound levels of the crackers and loudspeakers. Delimit the timings of using loudspeakers. Okay, so then before we go into the water pollution, need to go with a little more information. The laws and policies in India to control vehicular pollution, auto fuel policy. This information is right in the form of points. You'll get statement question from here. To cut down the vehicular pollution in Indian cities, Euro 2 norms. Now you remember we have at Euro 6 level the Euro 2 norms control sulfur content at 350 ppm and diesel 150 ppm in petrol. The levels of aromatic hydrocarbon is to be at 42% of the fuel. Then in future, they have a target like reducing the sulfur to 50 ppm in petrol and diesel and bring down the level to 35%. Aromatic hydrocarbon level to 35%. Upgrade the vehicle engines. Okay, so then some little more information, some information required here that for that I'm taking the board here. After all reading the environmental issues chapter from the NCERT textbook, we can't give any guarantee here that we are going to get the full marks and we are going to answer every question here because this is a very general topic, very general topic. Okay, so that means you need to practice the questions. The learn questions are comparatively little different in this particular area. Learn some more information from the questions that they are available in the black. That particular primary pollutant, secondary pollutant, these kind of questions are also easy to get. Not I am going to say that with this additional information I'm giving, which make you to answer everything. But well, let me pay my effort. Then after you need to practice the various kinds of questions, very regular, very general area. So that's why your practice required. That questions, while that means 50% we are going to learn only that by reading the chapter, but remaining 50% by answering different modes of questions in this particular area. Okay. Okay, so then let's start here. That pollutants, air pollutants, particularly we are talking the primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. The straight away carbon dioxide, the carbon monoxide, like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide. That what do you say? All these are said to be primary pollutants. I'm not writing here. Just saying. Secondary pollutants, whom we call secondary pollutants. That means whatever the primary pollutants with various combinations, if they form another pollutant, we say secondary pollutant. Let's take peroxyacetyl nitrate. That one of the best example for secondary pollutant here, peroxyacetyl nitrate. That peroxybenzyl nitrate, peroxyacetyl nitrate and peroxybenzyl nitrate. We say them as PAN and that PAN and the PBN, peroxybenzyl nitrate. We say this is secondary air pollutant. So it is the component of peroxyacetyl nitrate and peroxybenzyl nitrate are the components of the photochemical smog. So that means need to learn one more word. That is what is photochemical smog. That we need to see. So what is photochemical smog? Los Angeles smog. We used to say that because first time it was identified in Los Angeles and killed more than 1,000 people in Los Angeles. That's why we say the photochemical smog is having another name. That is Los Angeles smog. Okay, so what is this actually? Early morning in the winter season, you may find over that smog in the atmosphere. If that particular smog is combined with peroxyacetyl nitrate and peroxybenzyl nitrate, they are the secondary pollutants of nitric oxides. You remember that nitrate, you see that these peroxyacetyl nitrate and PVN, PPN presence in the photochemical smog, breathing that so many people are killed at the time. So which is very dangerous, basically. Okay, so this is one of the particular smog. And next, acid rains. That means sulfuric acid. That the sulfuric acid. That means whatever the particular nitric acid, sulfuric acid and nitric acid. Sulfur dioxide is the primary pollutant. When they dissolve in the water, that create sulfuric acid, nitric acid. What do you say? The particular nitric oxides are the primary pollutant. Their component, nitric acid, is going to be a part of acid rain. This is a part of acid rain. These are very regular questions. In what way? Because this is general knowledge. You may learn over in chemistry. Thus, the acid rains and photochemical smog. These two are the things to be remembered, and the participants in them are that secondary pollutants, we can say. Okay, so you will find some more information like what do you say that Madura refinery is going to create a great problem in the Taj Mahal. That the problem to the Taj Mahal is that the industries of Madura, the refineries are releasing sulfur and that is dissolved in the water that form the sulfuric acid. Acid rains are making a slight yellowish appearance on the limestone of Taj Mahal. Likewise, these are all said to be the general issues. We'll get by answering the different kinds of questions only. Okay, so let me go for the water pollution here. The water pollution and its control. The water pollution and its control. The domestic sewage and industrial effluents like the 0.1% impurities in water make domestic sewage unfit for human use. They include suspended solids like sand, silt, clay, colloidal materials like fecal matter, bacteria, cloth, paper fibers, dissolved materials like nutrients like nitrate, that NH3, phosphate, sodium, calcium, in that way. The removal of dissolved materials, organic compounds, and toxic metal ions are most difficult. The domestic sewage contains biodegradable organic matter. It is decomposed by microorganisms. The amount of biodegradable organic matter in sewage water is estimated by measuring biochemical oxygen demand. That measuring the biochemical oxygen demand. We need to understand this particular graph. Okay, so for that, to understand this particular graph, I have to go for little bit information for you that before we enter into the graph, that let me go for that little bit information about this area. So for that, I am taking no much diagrams are required. That's why I'm not taking board here. Just I am drawing here that whiteboard. This is the lake. Let us imagine this is the lake. So in lake, a general lake which contain all kind of aquatic organisms here, like that nekton, neuston, periphyton, benthos, whatever the organisms are in general present in the lake, they are present. Imagine there is a particular organic factory here. Okay, so I'm not a good artist and no need, I think so. If I say this is factory, it's enough for you. Okay, so from the factories, from the industries, okay, if any biodegradable waste is released, biodegradable waste, particularly we are talking about that biodegradable waste, any biodegradable waste is released from the factory. So this biodegradable waste here into the lake, when it was released over, they need some decomposition, very that, isn't it? They need some decomposition. Who do the decomposition? The microbial organisms, the bacteria which are present here, they do the decomposition. So when they are as long as this particular biodegradable wastes are releasing more, that leads to the increase of the bacteria for oxidation, decomposition by use of oxygen. Okay, decomposition by use of oxygen. So more decomposition, that means more utilization of oxygen. More utilization of oxygen leads to that amount of oxygen is going to be reduced in case of the lake. That means that reduced oxygen condition is going to affect the aquatic organisms present in this particular area. Okay, so demand, we need to understand what is demand. Demand means requirement. Required for whom? For example, you in your family, there are four number of people are there. Your family members are four, I'm talking about. If the food is enough for the four people, if some uh, three to two number of people or four number of people came into your home and they started eating your food, so demand will be created. You need to understand. Food demand is created. Then and the whom direction we are saying food demand is created in your angle, in your point of view. That means the natives point of view we have to discuss about. Who are the natives here? Aquatic organisms are already present in this particular lake. Their uh, oxygen demand will be increased. What do you call it as biological oxygen demand? You should understand this in the form of locals of that particular lake. So more biodegradable wastage, more utilization of oxygen, more utilization of oxygen for decomposition, and that means oxygen is going to be reduced in the lake. That create biological oxygen demand. That create biological oxygen demand. Let's try to understand the graph with this particular information. Let's try to understand the graph. Okay, so then you see this particular area, the sewage discharge is going to happen. When the sewage discharge is going to happen, the dissolved oxygen levels. Okay, so let us try to understand slowly in this particular area. The blue line, you should follow the blue line. What is happening to the blue line? Biological oxygen demand is decreasing. Why? You observe the red line. Dissolved oxygen is increasing. Means this is not the way to see. What is the problem for us? Reverse like this. When the dissolved oxygen is decreases in the lake, in this way you have to see. The problem we are discussing now, this is the way. When the dissolved oxygen is decreased, okay, so when the dissolved oxygen is decreased, you see that dissolved oxygen is at bottom level, that BOD is top level. So that's what we are talking about. Dissolved oxygen is at bottom level and the biological oxygen demand is more. Okay. So this is the positive way we say. When dissolved oxygen is more, BOD comparatively less. Just understand the diagram. Then after the remaining issues, whatever the questions will come, we can say will be discussed or we'll make our own decision in examination to answer. Okay. So that means reappearance of clean water organism means more DO and that reduces the BOD. Then what is this condition? The fish kill and disappearance of the clean water organism. That means that BOD is more and DO is less. DO that means deploy that oxygen, dissolved oxygen in the lake. That is due to the sewage discharge, industrial effluents, organic wastes, or household wastes, domestic sewage, whatever it may be. That should be an organic waste, which they are decomposable. Domestic sewage and industrial effluents. So during biodegradation, microorganisms consume oxygen. It results in a sharp decline in the dissolved oxygen. This causes the death of aquatic organisms. So presence of more nutrients, the story is not yet over. That particular decomposition results that what we said that more biodegradable substances, more decomposition and less DO, less depletion of dissolved oxygen and BOD increase. Along with that, one more problem is there because of the availability of large amount of nutrients. The planktonic algae will grow in maximum, we say algal bloom that you see, the green color. That it imparts a distinct color to the water bodies and deteriorates the water quality resulting in the death of fishes. Some bloom forming algae are extremely toxic to the human being and animals. So this is not good. Okay, so then the water hyacinth, Eichhornia crucifix, is the most problematic aquatic weed, which is called terror of Bengal, that you may have seen over many times in examination. that the water hyacinth, the Eichhornia crassipes of Bengal, they grow abundantly in eutrophic water bodies. Okay, then sewage from homes and hospitals contain pathogens that cause dysentery, typhoid, jaundice, and cholera. Industrial wastewater contain toxic substances like DDT, heavy metals, mercury, cadmium, copper, lead, and organic compounds. Heavy metals like mercury, cadmium, copper, lead, and organic compounds. Actually, in earlier video, which I said to you, human health and diseases videos, if watch over, you will find these kind of diseases also. That means heavy metals, mercury, like it causes minamota, whatever the disease, that all diseases, that 2 half an hours explained about all diseases. No teaching, no nothing there, just reading that particular diseases. In what way? The students should see again and again that to revise that particular list of parasites like protozoan, helminth, bacterial, viral, and various kinds of genetic disorders, various kinds of nutritional disorder, various kinds of pollutant disorders, every disorder that whatever these or disorder is there, it was discussed in the 2 half an hour. So the time being, you just watch it for 2 3 times that make you that all kind of parasites will come in mind. That not a chapter wise issue, that is. It's a complete the total diseases are explained there. Okay. So before we go, we continue to the biomagnification. Let me talk about the eutrophic water bodies. We have a word here. What is eutrophic water bodies? That let's go back to the screen that to understand eutrophic water bodies. So over a period of time, what happens? These particular decomposition organic wastes are going to be the complex organisms are going to turn into simple nutrients. The level of water bodies is going to be decreased over the slowly. What is happening here? A silt is formed, that more humus, more nutrient-rich soil, what do you call humic soil, is increased in this area. Slowly, the water levels in the lake is going to be reduced over. That is one of the best example is Musi. You see here, no water there, only black color soil. So that is because of release of industrial effluents, organic waste. So one in a particular period of time, that you may not see the lake there, that was changed. Having that I have heard about these kind of things earlier. Yeah, we said it as actually, we said this actually as ecological succession. We can't use this particular word for this particular pollution aspect, isn't it? But how does it different from ecological succession from this particular? You need to understand. Eutrophication, we use it to say this particular phenomena that the lake is gone, that completely filled with the organic wastes. So what do you call? If it all occurs naturally, you may call it as ecological succession. But this is not happened naturally. This is happened that by human activity. What do you call it as? Eutrophication. You can't say it as ecological succession. It will take thousands of years, a longer period of time. A human can make it possible artificially. What do you say? That is pollution, eutrophication. So the just try to find out the difference, ecological succession and eutrophication process. Okay, let's get back. That need to see that biomagnification issue. The biomagnification, magnifying, that means increasing. You need to understand. Very few technical terms. Like from the beginning, acid rains, photochemical smog, and now eutrophication, which is similar like the ecological succession, man-made ecological succession. That is not good thing actually. Now the biomagnification. Imagine, we'll take a particular example. We'll take mercury here. Mercury. That industries of Japan. It's a live example. Industries of the Japan used to release the mercury wastes in the marine water. Okay, I will start from here. From the story of mercury, that's why I'm going to start here. So they used to release this particular mercury in the particular waters. In marine waters, they use it to release over. So what happened when they use it to release this particular in the marine waters? That leads to a kind of problem. These mercury, imagine 1 ppm in one fish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fishes are there here. Okay, I know 7 are there, but for my count, I'm taking 6. The 6 fishes are there. Imagine these fish eaten 3 fishes. These fish eaten 3 fishes. As I said, 1 ppm mercury in 1 fish. That means how many you can see in this particular fishes? 3 ppm each. That means from lower trophic level to the higher trophic level, that the magnifying that pollutant substance is happening. Imagine if these 2 fishes are eaten by one human being. So how much in human being? 6 ppm. So that's what we are talking about. Magnification from the lower trophic level to the higher trophic level. In the same way, you can say DDT. DDT, when you spray to the plants, from there to the insects, from there to the fishes. Likewise, in one trophic level to the other trophic level, that myomagnification is going to be happening, magnifying that substance. So this line story makes that Minamoto disease observed in Japan people. When they focused that area, this myomagnification thing came into the limelight. The organisms cannot metabolize or excrete the toxicants. So that's why it is passed into the next trophic level directly, but next trophic level in multiplied manner, because that next trophic level always eat more than one. Like a small fish eat many zooplankton. A large fish eat many small fishes. So that's why. So that's why from one level to the another, we started from 0.00003 ppm to 0.04, 0.5, 2 ppm, and maximum it was reached to the bird, that is 25 ppm. So that's what we are talking about, biomagnification. So this kind of TDT disturb the calcium metabolism in birds, which causes the thinning of eggshell, that premature breaking we say. It causes decline in bird population, and DDT also causes disturbances in the nervous system, that acetylcholine cannot be removed from the synapse by cholinesterase enzyme. It affects the cholinesterase enzyme. Generally, acetylcholine from the synapse immediately need to be removed by enzyme called cholinesterase, but that won't be happen in case of more DDT in the body. That leads to paralysis. What is it? Eutrophication. We just talked about the eutrophication. Natural aging of a lake by nutrient enrichment. It's a natural aging of a lake by nutrient enrichment. If generally, if it all happen natural aging, what do you call it as? What we say that particular condition as ecological succession. So in a young lake, what do you call eutrophication? Okay, in a young lake, water is cold and clear. With time, streams draining into the lake introduce the nutrients. It increases lake's fertility. Thus, plants and animals grow rapidly and organic remains are deposited in lake bottom, so the lake grows shallower and warmer with warm water organisms. Then the story of ecological succession we are talking about actually. Marsh plants take root in the shallows and fill in the original lake basin. Eventually, the lake becomes land. Okay, so depending on the climate, size of the lake, and other factors, the eutrophication may span thousands of years. But if the same vitrification done by the human being, what do you call it as manual, anthropological vitrification? Okay, so however, pollutants like effluents from the industries and homes accelerate vitrification. What do you call if it is done by the same vitrification done by human being? What do you say? Accelerated vitrification or cultural or accelerated vitrification. Here, the reason for that prime contaminants are the nitrates and phosphates. They overstimulate the growth of algae. It causes unsightly scum and unpleasant odors and drops the water of dissolved oxygen. It leads to death of other organisms. So, the cultural eutrophication is going to be dangerous. We are talking about. Okay, so then let me show you that particular area again to you. Then whiteboard, we discussed about this particular, that ecological succession. If it all naturally happen, we say it as ecological succession, which will take thousands of years. But if if it was done by human being, if it was done by human being, what do you call that particular cultural eutrophication? Such condition, we say it as cultural eutrophication. Okay, so let me write here cultural eutrophication. That eutrophication or ecological succession, if it all done by human being, okay, some sort of confusion. Let me write here that it was done by human being, that we say cultural. Yeah, okay, we can go back, isn't it? So that's it. Let me write here. The cultural eutrophication. Then we need to continue with the topic here. The eutrophication, heated or thermal wastewater from electricity generating areas. That the eutrophication we are completed here. Now let's go with the thermal pollution. The thermal wastewater from electricity generating units, thermal power plants, we say, eliminates the organisms sensitive to high temperature. We know that most of the aquatic organisms, like our fishes, even they are poikilothermic organisms. That means they can't tolerate the temperature fluctuation. That the poikilothermic organisms generally stenothermal, isn't it? That we discussed in ecology. So the poikilothermic stenothermal organism can't tolerate the temperature fluctuation. That these thermal wastewater with the high temperatures, when it was released to the water bodies, the surrounding lake here, that may kill the organisms of that particular lake. It may enhance the growth of plants and fish in extremely cold areas, but only after causing damage to the indigenous flora and fauna. That what they are saying. The thermal power plants eliminate organisms sensitive to high temperature because they are poikilothermic, stenothermal organisms. Then, but it may enhance the growth of other plants and fish in extremely cold areas, but only after causing damage to the local flora and fauna. Okay, so double disadvantage we can see. The local species will go, and that makes other species to come. Integrated wastewater treatment, Arcata wastewater treatment. That includes artificial and natural processes here. An example is the town of Arcata, the northern coast of California. That townspeople and biologists from the Humboldt State University created an integrated wastewater treatment process. So it was a map here. That's a big area to know, but very little information we have in our textbook. The various levels will be seen over for filtration of that particular Arcata wastewater management is a bigger one. The very interesting project. The cleaning occurs in two stages: sedimentation, filtering, and chlorine treatments. After this, remaining pollutants like dissolved heavy metals were removed using an innovative approach. The biologists developed a series of 6 connected marshes over 60 acres of the marshland that appropriate plants and algae, fungi, and bacteria were seeded into this area. That is to remove the organic waste. They neutralize and absorb and assimilate pollutants. Thus, as the water flows through marshes, it gets purified naturally. The marshes also constitute a sanctuary with the high level of biodiversity, that in the form of fishes, animals, and birds. It was organized by Friends of the Arcata Marsh, a citizen group for the upkeep and safeguarding of this particular project. If you search in Google Foam, that you'll find their own website along with their videos also. Ecological sanitation, a sustainable system for handling human excreta using dry composting toilets. Okay, so this is a practical, hygienic, efficient, and cost-effective solution to the human waste disposal. We say Ecosan toilets in Kerala and Sri Lanka, there are actually there. That human excreta can be recycled into a resource as natural fertilizer. Please log in again. We continue.